Hi guys, welcome to the Gallery Podcast Studio. We've got a bit of a special today on Barry's history. I'm very lucky to have my mate Ryan. He's written up quite a lot of stuff here. So hopefully we'll fit it all in one podcast. If not, fortunately there's more content for you. So Ryan, do you want to introduce yourself quickly?
As you've mentioned, my name's Ryan. Lived in Barry now for pretty much all my life, bar a brief spell. And I've always had sort of like an interest in the history of Barry. I know a lot of people say, go and travel, see the world, which I completely agree with. But I do think like local history, local sites are as interesting, if not more, and far more accessible. So, spent many years just sort of...
Yeah, and it's something we do often quite ignore because it's on our doorstep, isn't it? But no, Barry's got a wealth of knowledge, history, and I'm really looking forward to what you've got written down. Where do you want to start?
Basically, like we've mentioned, they always had that interest. There's a lot of history around here. I mean, Barry's been of significant importance now for thousands of years. There's many examples of that.
Do you know when Barry was founded?
As the modern town, or are we talking before that? Because, I mean, there's been Stone Age tools found.
Okay, how about Barry as we know it now?
So Barry as we know it now would have been the turn of the previous century. So we're talking the very early 1900s, very late 1800s. Before that, it was made of three villages, Tregatug, Merthyr Dyfan and Cumkiddy, which were all historical villages, been there for hundreds of years. But
just a quick question for you. Just had another friend reference this a long time ago. Porthkerry.
Yeah.
Was that not a village as well? Or was that part of that?
So Porthkerry was Cumkiddy.
Okay.
So that's where the old mill was.
It's right at the bottom.
At the bottom, which now you've got the namesake, the Cumkiddy, just up the top of Porthkerry now. There's the pub there. That's been inhabited now for at least 800 years. And the rest, is
older than America.
Yeah, by quite some time. But I mean, Barry, as we know it now, started forming on the back end of the coal industries. The Cardiff docks was hugely popular with many mines, many people making lots of money.
Yeah, Wales being famous for our mines and miners.
Of course. And it was David Davis who wanted to sell coal, decided that Cardiff was too expensive, so did what anyone would do and went, I'm going to build my own dock. Managed to get, I think it was about £1 million he needed to secure as a venture, which led to the formation of Barry Docks. With it, the influx of the people coming to work, sort of starting to form what we now know as Barry, which brought enormous wealth to the area, but did marginalise local populations. You can even see that the King William pub, the Billy, next door. There's a destroyed chapel. It was an old Welsh-speaking chapel, but once the dock workers came, quickly taken over by English speakers, that was knocked down and has paved way for the Barry we know today.
All right, awesome. And so could you go on to tell me where did the name Barry come from?
Yeah, no, certainly. Quite an interesting story, really. There was, was it the 7th, 8th century? There was St. Cadog. You might recognise that name then from Cadogstad.
Yeah.
Which is quite strange, having an Irish saint causing the English name of a Welsh place.
We're a diverse place.
Always have been. And I think that's one of the the great things about Barry. So there was St. Cadog over in Ireland. One of his disciples was St. Barrack. St. Cadog had set up a monastery in Lancarvan, just outside of Barry. And
it's not too far away from Roos, that.
No, I think it's about 7 miles from Barry.
Oh, okay.
Maybe, give or take, a little bit there. And St. Barrack was a self-described hermit. He, in true monk style, didn't really enjoy spending too much time with people other than God.
Sounds like a legend.
So he essentially travelled down to Barry Island, which at the time had no bridge. It was a tidal island. The only way to get across is when the tide was out. And
a bit like how Sully Island is now.
Yeah,
is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And with it came the dangers, which led to not many people going to Barry Island. But St. Barrack had set himself up a little place, which you can still see the ruins of today, just above Jackson's Bay. And he used to go there for reflection, to study his literature. And this is where we get the name Barry from, because with St. Barrack, I don't know how much you know about him, but
But in Welsh, we would say Barrick.
oh, Barrick.
Yeah,
well, English speaker, you'll have to correct me on some of my
colonialist.
my. And the story essentially goes, and this is where Barry Island ended up becoming famous for the first time. Essentially, was he wanted to go over to Flatholme to reflect, to get away from people, to study the Bible, I believe it was.
Chill with the girls and the rats.
That's it. So he got on his little boat and he's rowing away, and you know what the channel's like. It's a difficult bit of water, and he gets there safely. He has time to reflect. He's reading through his book, nice, happy. Decides to come back and realizes he's forgot his book when he gets back to Barry Island. So back on his little boat, row, and he gets his boat. He gets his book, back on his boat, and on the way back, it caught in a storm. It sank.
It's not a long way, like that's
no.
Bad luck.
And but it just gets a bit weirder because then people waiting for him back at Barry Island, like, right, he's not come back. He's lost his book. But a few days later, fishermen casting off, and they catch a salmon, and they gut this salmon, and inside there is this book.
Fat salmon.
It had to be God's fat salmon, yeah. And, God has protected this. And
God's fat salmon.
and quite amazingly, then this led to Barry Island being a place of pilgrimage. So these saints were 7th, 8th century. We're not entirely sure when, but what we do know is that Barry Island became a significant place of pilgrimage. People would come to the well of Barry Island, thinking because of the miracle of the book returning and the fact that St. Barrick had managed to be buried in the ground, that this water had healing properties. So 700-800 years, I think it was now. Go on. What?
God's fast. So sorry, I struggled to keep it together there, but if you could just pick it up there,
No, of course,
where we left off there, brother.
Basically after this crazy story about the salmon, the book, Barrick being buried, at Barry Island, of course, with any saint, they've got saintly powers. So the story goes that this ended up in the well of Barry Island, of which was capped during the development of the old Butlins. So you can't actually see that well anymore. But
do you think it's still there?
I think it is. Yeah, I think it's
under the car park somewhere.
If I'm correct now, because you've got Roman Well Road, which is the train station going up to the top end, the fairground as it is now, and I believe it was on that corner, but I'm sure someone that's listening maybe
hopefully,
more of that. But yeah, somewhere in that general area. And although we don't quite know when these saints were alive, died, we think it was the 7th, 8th century. What we do know is that the pilgrimage must have lasted a few hundred years, because essentially the thing that stopped it was good old Henry VIII. It would have been the Act of Supremacy. So about 1534, we know that he started his own church and was looking to take power off any religious organisations across the width and breadth of what we now know as Wales, England. So we know that Llancarvan was essentially abandoned at that point, which would lead to no one paying for the Barry Island Monastery to be upkept. We think it was rebuilt a little bit around the 17th century, and then was lost again to time.
Do you know by who?
No, I could not find exactly by who.
Well, it was just rumours of it being rebuilt.
Yeah.
Probably an attempt, and it ran out of money.
Potentially, yeah, because it was only but like maybe 100 years after that 200 years, about 1894, that it was rediscovered, buried in a bit of sand at the top of Jackson's. And I don't know whether it's one of those false memories, but you can still see the monastery up there now. It's fenced off, but I'm almost certain as a child I remember it not being fenced off and climbing over it. But I don't know whether that's one of those, sort of made up memories. We know that the pilgrimages would have ended around the 1534 mark. We believe it was partly rebuilt a few hundred years later. But essentially what we do know for sure is that it's definitely left in ruin now. You can still go see it to this date. That's the top of Jackson's Bay on that little patch of green. For anyone that wants to go see a bit of history, it's still there. The foundations are still there, which I find quite interesting. And the other, I think, great thing, that's sort of interesting thing that's sort of still around. Now, I won't say exactly where it is, because it does flood very easy. I wouldn't want anyone going there. But between Jackson's Bay and the Whitmore Bay. So you've got the main beach and the smaller beach. You've got the headland.
Yeah.
So around there's actually a cave, which you can only access when the tide is far enough out. And there is evidence to suggest that St. Barrack would go there for reflection, sit in his little cave.
During the fall of the tide sort of thing.
Yeah. But, I would not recommend anyone go looking for it.
No,
It's
absolutely
when
not.
that tide comes back in. And I think then the other interesting thing about that cave is that it sort of takes us into that next period of Barry Island. So after the fall of the church and those pilgrimages ended, is that Barry Island was essentially left to itself. There was no real reason to go there for a couple of 100 years. And the next sort of, I guess, I don't know how to word it really.
Like an event?
Yeah, almost, yeah. It would be the 18th century. You would have Thomas Knight, who was a smuggler, a pirate, who turned up at Barry Island along with many of his men, 24 cannon ship, and set up fortifications, and he used it as his spot for smuggling for quite a number of years. There is potentially evidence to suggest that same cave that Barrack would have hidden could have been part of the network there to hide products that essentially didn't have any tax on.
Yeah.
Which was rife at that time.
That's a cool thing about the Welsh coast. If you look at it through the scope of like a pirate, you're heading down the channel, you've got a bit of a head start on the whoever.
Yeah.
There's loads of spots down the Welsh coast that you could essentially hide a boat behind somewhere. So if you got there quick enough, got off or whatever, you could actually hide the boat whilst your pursuers are heading their way up the channel looking for you. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like if you look at so next time you're out and about, have a look about where you could hide your pirate ship.
I mean, there's a tall ship down at Barry Docks at the moment getting repaired, so you can see a ship of about that size.
Do you know which one it is?
I don't know what the ship is. I know it's been refitted by a charity, like a conservation charity at the moment. It's been a couple of years. I think they're looking to refit it so they can environmentally friendly sail places to deliver medicine, I believe.
The engineering behind those ships is
insane. Yeah.
Like to bend those like huge oak wood structures.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And have it precise as well, it's just something else.
Quite impressive. And it was this man, he was there on his ship, the John O'Combe, 24 cannon, big. And for a number of years, custom officers were sent there to try and, confiscate the goods, collect taxes.
Yeah.
And they just
uphold the law.
Yeah, they just couldn't get him off. The local population quite scared of what Thomas Knight would do if they were found to be helping him. So these custom officers would come down, not really have any luck. They would get shot at. They would get killed. Many of these were getting injured, and ultimately, eventually, they just didn't want to do it anymore. They didn't want to try and get these goods because they weren't even getting pensions at the time. You've got many customs officers being like, what do we want? Pensions. When do we want it? Now. So the Crown turned around and went, that's fair. We won't give you a pension, but if you lose a hand or a foot, we'll give you a tenner. And somehow back then, that was enough to get these custom officers to eventually...
Though, £10 in gold at that time...
Well,
would it have something like that? Because it's like they were promissory notes for actual things, weren't they?
Well, yeah. Ultimately, if it was my left hand, it was a life-changing amount of money.
I would sell my left hand for £10 of gold. like.
No, but we're talking £10, whatever it was at the time. And
yeah,
it probably was quite a bit of money. And that, along with a unfortunate turn of events for Thomas Knight at Cardiff, in which the Crown had sent armed guards who managed to confiscate some of his goods, which ultimately eventually led him to go off to Flatholm, Barry Island being secure again. And I think once they'd removed him there, that essentially allowed the old harbour to flourish once again. The old harbour, for those of you who know, has always looked like nothing's really going on, but for a good hundreds of years, it was very significant.
There's a reason they built that pier in there. There's a reason.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like the old harbour and Watchtower Bay and stuff like that. But in one sense, I really wish something would get done with it. On the other hand, I love it the way it is.
Yeah.
It's like completely non-commercial, it's like with that huge pier there, which has stood for in memoriam for a lot of people,
I remember as a teenager, you jump off it into the sea, have a little swim. It's
part of what you do when you grow up around here.
Exactly,
you know what I mean?
Exactly. And
you learn when the tides stop getting high enough to jump as well.
Yeah, Or you'd have that one friend in the group that would just jump off and test it for everyone else.
Wheelchair
That
for the
was-
rest of the summer.
yeah. But no, people have been going to that harbour for, well, at least we think about as far as the 16th century, 17th century, where, cotton, butter, cheese, all transported off as far as really like Western France. That harbour was significant, save for the gap where pirates and smugglers were making it too dangerous. But then once that was cleared, that leads on to something else you can see today. The old harbour near the Ship Hotel pub.
Mm-hmm.
There's the little garden, and you might notice there's two tunnel-looking things built into those gardens. I don't know if you've ever...
Next to the parade.
Yeah, just underneath the parade. And for years, I had no idea what they were. But it turns out for around the 19th century, it was a significant limestone kiln. So they were making up to 25 ton at a time of limestone.
Sorry, for those of us that don't know, what's a kiln?
A kiln, so it's basically a giant oven, 900 degrees. It would burn up until 900 degrees Celsius.
Ah, cool. Oh, that makes sense now. So yeah, if you went down there, you could probably see. Yeah, that's probably an old oven.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense. Yeah, go on.
Yeah.
Sorry,
So
carry on.
an old oven, which they would basically heat up the limestone, turn it into a usable material, and that got shipped as far as Devon. You can still see that today, and I just find it really interesting that for hundreds and hundreds of years, that even before things like the fairground, Barry Island was a destination for people. As far back as those pilgrimages we were talking about earlier. Back then, that would be significant travel for many people, down to the trade that it's brought in. The wealth that it brought to this area before what we know as Barry Dock was built then the turn of the 1900s.
Do you think it being so like Roos, which is only like about 3 or 4 miles to the west of us, that's the most southern point of Wales. Do you think Barry being sort of next to, but with many access points and obviously soft sandy beaches, do you think that had any sort of influence on why it was a destination people wanted to go to?
I would certainly imagine so, because I mean, when you go as far as Porthcurry, you've got the rockier beaches. Then between Barry and Porthcurry, there was an Iron Age fort up near the airport, overlooking all of that. So whether it was because of ease of access or whether it was just near farmsteads, Barry, I mean, we've got a Roman villa, or the foundation, down the Nap, right on the front, down the Nap. So you've got the car park. If you go along there and you've got the flats on your right, you can actually see the foundations of a Roman villa, which would have been built, I think it was around 68 AD. Although there is evidence to say it was not completed. But I mean, people have been coming
significant
here.
rockfall, probably.
Yeah, it is near a bit of a dodgy cliff. But no, I just find it interesting that for so long, Barry, for whatever reason, whether it be the views, the beaches, the harbours, or its access to other points, has been somewhere that people want to live. And I just find it amazing that I've been lucky enough to live here.
I sort of come from the unfortunate position. It's like all I've known, so it's just like. It sort of isn't special in that sort of way for me, because it's like it's just where I grew up in a way. But as I become an adult, and it's like you start thinking about moving out or moving away, I really don't see anywhere like nearby, like South Wales wise, that's gonna offer me more for where I live, value for money wise. Do you know what I mean? And then like since I sort of went through that, and then you look at Barry and sort of through a different scope, and I can see why people like it. The only thing I'm not a fan of is the Brown Sea, but it's an estuary. It's not the sewage and all that. It's an estuary, and that's why it just looks horrible. But if the sea was blue, I think it'd be one of the best places in the world,
especially Jackson's Bay on a sunny day. If you can ignore the colour of that water, it is like being abroad. And I mean, I know, funny story on the brown water. There is somewhere out there footage of me, a little 11-year-old me, on ITV News, I believe it was, head boy, proud of my badge, Barry Island School.
All right.
And it was the first year that the Blue Flag had been awarded. And I believe I was very close to saying that there was floating bits of brown on live TV, and I managed to recover it by saying, oh, it's nice that there's not floating bits of rubbish anymore. But I think my parents found that
it's
quite
been chemically treated. It's fine.
Yeah. Why not? But no, like you said, it is an estuary. It is mud. The water, for the most part, was clean. It would be nice to see not as much sewage sort of discharged into there, but that's for anyone listening, if you do want to write to to your local MP and that sort of demands better access, better quality seawater, that would be I think beneficial for everyone. Barry, as you said there, I think people get caught in that trap of, well, I know what it is, but I think when you look a bit further afield, I mean, how many towns of this size have something like Porth Kerry? A county park of that size that's been preserved and looked after so well. I mean, if you look at the size of that compared to the footprint of Barry, I think we've got some wonderful things around us. We've got the oldest example of a burial ground up in Devon Burial Chambers. That's, there is so much history here and so many days, hours, weeks, years that you could spend just looking around, and you'll find amazing things around here everywhere you go.
Okay, cool. And so yeah, what else? Is there anything else of note at the beginning of the 19th century that happened in Barry?
Yeah, so the late 19th century, the 1870-ish.
Okay.
There or thereabouts was.
Do you know when I say 19th, I think I mean 20th.
That's I did think that. Sorry. I thought I'd try and correct it in a polite way. No, but essentially then this led to Lord Windsor eventually ended up, after all the piracy and stuff, he ended up acquiring Barry Island. Now, I don't know if you've heard the name Windsor associated with
I remember the zoo.
The zoo.
Do you remember the zoo?
I mean, I don't know.
Top of town? The Windsor?
Windsor Zoo.
It was called the Windsor.
Oh, the pub.
It was a great pub, yeah.
Yes. No, that's flats now, isn't it? I think, yeah.
Like most things.
Yeah, but... so yeah, the Windsor, whether or not that pub took its name from the Windsor family, it might have. But Windsor, quite a rich family, a rich man who had significant investment in Penarth, who acquired Barry Island from, I can't quite remember who, but whoever he acquired it from had built the Marine pub. Again, now flats. Top of Plymouth Road.
Oh, I know. Yes.
Yeah, which is also now flats.
Oh, well,
many years ago that changed, but so Windsor had invested all this money in Penarth. The Marine pub had been built on Barry Island. Some people would go in there. He acquired Barry Island and decided that no, he only wanted people to go to Penarth. So discouraged people from coming to Barry Island, which is one of the reasons, if not the only reason, that Barry Island doesn't have like a Victorian pier, or that as Penarth does. It would have made sense for how popular Barry Island was about to become.
Yeah.
But we never had that, just simply to try and keep people away for a while, basically.
Thank God. It would look hideous, wouldn't it?
But, well, yeah, a lot of them haven't been
Penarth
kept up
needs
too well.
Because
yeah,
the sand's horrible.
Yeah, no, but we are quite lucky with the sandy beaches here. But as with many things, there, Windsor's mind was changed by what I imagine was the equivalent of a brown paper envelope full of cash offered by David Davis to build the docks, which led then to Barry Island having train tracks. This was the first time then when that was established, that Barry Island was no longer a tidal island. Previously, you could only get there when the tide was out. And what this led to then was, I think, opening weekend at the train station was about 30,000 people, Victorians travelling to Barry Island. It became quite the holiday destination. I think at its peak, it was about 100,000 people a weekend would be going. I think it was in the interwar stage, if not just after World War II, but sort of pre-packaged holidays, where that seaside holiday sort of died off quite a lot. But yeah.
Okay, cool. And so, is it worth going into the docks now?
Oh, I mean,
because it's quite a huge topic, isn't it? Is it worth maybe saving that for another episode or something?
I would agree on that one. I could probably talk about the docks for
that's
as
fine.
long as we've spoke about the last 1,300 years of Barry's history. Probably about as much happened then in the brief period that the docks were built. So
no, I think we'll do that then. Yeah, we'll definitely do that. Another thing I'd like to cover as well, Butlins.
Butlins, yeah.
So I heard so many great things about that.
Well,
but
yeah,
I never got to do it myself.
No, I mean Butlins was a little bit before my time, but I do have a vague memory of being about 2 or 3 years old in the swimming pool there. After it was Butlins, it became Majestic for a few years, and that's the very brief bit I remember. But my dad and my uncle used to tell me stories of Butlins. Now, what they used to do is, what some people used to do is, you could sneak into Butlins As long as you were okay with the paint marks that would be left on your hand from the anti-grime painting, you'd have to spend all day hiding that to try and stay in. But
Use a t-shirt.
And there was even at one point like a hovercraft type boat. I'm sure it was a hovercraft, if not like a ferry. And you could used to go Barry Island to Minehead for quite some time as well, going straight across the channel to the other Butlin sites. Butlin's brought in many people, and I think, as we mentioned earlier, the whole package holiday thing sort of killing off the seaside sort of destination. But I think, and unfortunately for Barry Island and like places like Porthcawl, is that there's not really anywhere now for like accommodation. Like there aren't many places that it's not somewhere you come down for multiple days as you would have with Butlins. And it is nice to see a bit of resurgence and investment in the area. But I do think for it to become more of a destination, it would be nice to see something like, not Butlins, but something to really bring people down for a few days, which is where, things like we spoke about today, there is a lot of history. You could spend a few days in Barry as long as you know what you're looking for.
Yeah.
And hopefully this will help people sort of, find a couple of things we spoke about or inspire them to look further into what's around Barry and the great things you can do.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your time today, Ryan. And thank you so much for the work you put in on that as well. That's great. You've been really good, really informative. So, I look forward to part 2.
Thank you. You too.
Nice one, brother. Cheers.
Thank you.